Dave Rubin's show, and he made an interesting observation about college and the future of college, thinking about how things are going to change coming out of COVID-19, in some ways perhaps for the better.
2 weeks ago, I watched on YouTube a lecture from MIT for free, the same lecture that would have cost X thousands of dollars, right? So I think when the dust settles, higher education is going to be revealed for the luxury brand that it truly is. And when you take away all of the stuff that has nothing to do with learning or connecting, you're going to be left with a breathtakingly overpriced product.
And that's not to say that it's an endorsement of distance learning and only distance learning, but it is to say that there's going to be a reckoning with respect to some things that have been wildly inflated in the case of higher education because of
like tuition.
Well, because of government subsidy, yeah, in the
Right.
case of college education, and frankly, in the case of K through 12 education, because of a centrally planned system like the Chicago public school system. These are centrally planned systems, these public school systems. And perhaps if we get some right sizing there and we don't indulge the hue and cry for bailouts of all these various institutions, some public, some quasi-public, some private, that's ongoing, in addition to states and local governments asking for, states and cities specifically asking for bailouts. Maybe we can have some long overdue economic reckonings in places like higher education and even K through 12 education in terms of per pupil spend and the efficiency with which those institutions operate. For more on all things economics, we're pleased to be joined again by Steve Moore, economist, Wall Street Journal columnist, and author of Trumponomics. Hey, Steve.
Hi, guys. Good morning. By the way, I missed the very first part of that. Who was that was talking about what a ripoff?
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Well, he is
The guy with the
100%
hat.
correct. I mean, we've had this conversation for many months and many years on your show. University and college tuitions are the greatest financial ripoff in America today, and we're having a big tiff with the school. I'm not going to mention the college my son goes to because I don't want to get it.
We know. He goes to Northwestern. Oh, oops. Did I
Amy,
say that out
come
loud?
on.
Darn it.
But here's the thing. They didn't have a second semester. They had like a few weeks of the second semester, and the school wants to charge them the full tuition amount. And we're saying the parents around the country are voting and say that's ridiculous. It costs 1/10 as much to provide the courses online, as Mike was saying, as it does to be. The whole college experience is really, about being on campus, meeting people, the kind of camaraderie that you develop. And if you don't have that, then you can take it online. And the schools are being kind of talking on both sides of their mouth. On the one hand, they're saying, well, gee, you get the same education, your kid is still getting the same education online. Okay, well, then why am I paying $35,000 a semester for tuition?
Well, you got back room and board, right?
Well, yeah. So you include room and board. That's right. The room and board got back, but they gave that back, but they didn't give the money back for the tuition. And instead of paying probably out of that $35,000 a semester, it's probably maybe $15,000 of that is for the room and board. But the rest, so it's $20,000 for tuition, and online it costs $2,000. So give us $18,000 back. I think parents around the country are really pissed off about this.
Well, and I want to put this in context since this was being discussed on the Senate side yesterday, Pelosi's quote unquote CARES Act. This is another massive sector, the education sector, that is seeking not just restitution for revenue lost, but also really effectively bailouts from the federal government to take advantage of the pandemic.
So I've been trying to figure out, because that's an 1,850-page bill. And by the way, do you know how many times that bill refers to the economy?
Zero.
For every bark that your dog is barking.
No, you're wrong, Dan. Twice. It mentions diversity like 75 times. It mentions cannabis like 90 times. But it only mentions the economy twice. So, I mean, isn't this comical? So here's the thing. I've been looking in that bill because all this stuff is hidden in there, and it's like trying to read Greek to figure these things out. But do you have a good estimate about how much money is going to higher universities? By the way, the higher universities, colleges and universities have hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of endowments. They don't have. Why are they going to the federal taxpayer for money?
Well, right, and this is the. I mean, and I think I said CARES Act, but I meant HEROES Act. CARES Act was the first one, of course, but this was the argument when you had Harvard, for example, get some of the grant funding through the Department of Education in the CARES Act, and the hue and cry for them to return it because they have a $41 billion endowment, and their response is, well, you have to understand that's not completely liquid. It's about 80% encumbered. Which, if you do some back of the envelope math, that means you got about $8 billion to play with. I agree.
That's like an individual saying, I don't have any income, even though I have, $1 million in stocks. Well, it's not liquid. So I need food stamps.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Right.
So this is turning. I do think that what happened on Friday with that bill was so outrageous and so really reprehensible that Pelosi would use a health emergency where people are dying and using it to give money to the Illinois pension system or the National Endowment for the Arts or, for environmental justice grants that have nothing to do with fighting this virus or helping the victims of the virus or the businesses. And I got to tell you, Dan, I've been even talking to my liberal friends who, love the Democrats, and even they're like rolling their eyes saying, why is Pelosi doing this? So I think this was a big overreach by Pelosi. I think people are disgusted by it. I think, now the problem is, Dan, you know this, Republicans are so stupid. They are the stupid party. They're going to say, oh, Nancy Pelosi, not $3 trillion, only $1.5 trillion.
Right.
Folks, we've already spent $3.1 trillion. We shouldn't be spending one more penny on federal spending. We should roll back the payroll tax, give every employer in America a liability shield so they can't get sued by the trial lawyers, and cut taxes, cut regulation, do those kinds of things. That's what built the economy in the first place. Let's do it again. More government spending. Spending does not stimulate the economy.
Right. And what I've noticed in states that are reopening, not all the employees are back because, they fear that they might get the coronavirus, but they also, why go back to work? You're making more money sitting home.
Well, that's the big problem. I talked to a friend of mine who runs a construction company. I may have mentioned this a few weeks ago on your show, but it's worth repeating that he has about 80 employees, and he said a day after they passed the, quote, CARES Act, about 30 of his 80 employees just walked off the job. They weren't fired. They just walked off the job, and he can't get them back now. He can't get them back because they are getting paid more money, and with all the unemployment benefits, the $600, now Pelosi wants to send, another $2,000 to people. This is what Milton Friedman used to call helicopter money. Dropping money out of helicopters it may be popular with people. By the way, people love that idea. Yeah, give us the free money. But that does not stimulate the economy, and we've got to get back to good basic economics. But you're right. There are a lot of stupid things we've done, but one of the stupidest things, Amy, is we are now paying in 31 states, including the great state of Illinois, we're paying workers more money to stay home than to go to work. And by the way, anybody listening to the show, if you're driving to work right now, you are a sucker. You're a sucker because there are a lot of people out there who are watching TV and didn't have to get up at 6 a.m, and they are getting more money than you are. Now, liberals love to talk about fairness. Tell me how that is fair.
It seems to me this is getting to something else that needs to happen, which is being very specific about who's being hurt and who's surviving just fine, because that informs the discussion. And so just going back to college education, under Pelosi's bill, you could be eligible to receive $10,000 of federal student loan forgiveness and $10,000 of private student loan forgiveness. So that's for the 1 in 3 that are in college or went to college. Wait.
Are you talking about people who have loans that they haven't repaid?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's ridiculous.
Well, I know.
Is it that we,
but this is getting to my point. So
how do we reward people who don't pay back their loans and the people actually have to pay for it are the people who acted responsibly and did repay their loans. Nobody's ever going to repay a loan ever in America.
Well, this was the back and forth during Elizabeth Warren's ill-fated presidential run that she had with the gentleman who had paid back his college loan, and why not me, but now I got to pay for somebody else. But then the flip side
of
that.
Dan, do you think there's any chance that I could get Pelosi to pay my mortgage for me?
Maybe if you switch parties.
I want one of her refrigerators.
I
want one of those bad boys.
But now the flip side of that is what we know: 40% of those who've lost their jobs make less than $40,000. So it seems 40%. to me that there's a decision to be made, and the Republicans need to say, You 40% who've lost your jobs making less than $40,000, we're your party. And here's what we mean by that, because we're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, look, I think Trump did one really brilliant thing, and it's driving liberals crazy, especially in states like Illinois. He basically said, look, let the states decide. That's federalism, folks. We have 50 states. We have 50 governors. Let them decide, and let the people of the states decide. And so you've got now a situation where about 28 states are open. The news from Florida and Georgia and Texas, Tennessee is awesome, by the way. They've seen a steep decline in their death rates. Remember when Kemp of Georgia said he was opening up their economy? I mean, the left went absolutely ape. They were like, this guy is a murderer. He's going to have blood on his hands. Georgia's had one of the biggest declines in death rates. By the way, have you read that in the media anywhere? But in any case, now you've got these states like Illinois, and you got to look. Let's face it. Your governor has a dunce cap on, and he's keeping the economy shut down. And then he is going to Washington D.C. and saying, "Giving us money." And one of the things I've told Republicans: no, you're just enabling people like Pittsburgh to stay shut down if you keep paying them to stay shut down. So look, my attitude is: if you folks in Illinois voted for this guy, you have to live the repercussions of this. I mean, voting matters. The people who you put in charge are I think disabling the state of Illinois and destroying the small businesses. But that's for the people of Illinois. And don't come to Washington knocking on the door and say, hey, give us some money because we've got all our businesses shut down. You shut them down.
Yeah, but I think we're going to be shut down, Stephen, until we get that federal funding. I really do. That or the election, whatever happens first.
Oh, by the way, I don't know if it was Pritzker. It was it wasn't Pritzker. It was Governor Newsom of California. And I wouldn't be surprised if Pritzker doesn't try this. Maybe he has. But Newsom, did you see what he said in his press conference yesterday? He said, if Washington doesn't give us money, we're going to fire all the first responders.
Right. Yeah.
We're not gonna do anything about the pensions. We're not gonna fire the bureaucrats and blah blah blah. We're gonna fire the police and the firemen and the healthcare workers. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Pritzker didn't try that tactic too.
Sure, it's classic. It's the classic hostage situation approach. It's the same thing the teachers' unions do when they go on strike. Give us what we want, or the kids get it. It's the same thing, same deal.
Have they done anything in Illinois to do anything about the pensions in the last few months?
No, we're not doing anything. Everything's fine. This is this is not the time to reduce spending or reduce headcount. This is the time to increase our structural taxes like the state income tax and to get federal money. That's the
By the way, I have a solution, Dan and Amy, to your pension crisis, because I know in Illinois, isn't it constitutionally protected, those pensions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, so here's a solution. I think this would be constitutional. Impose a 30% tax on pensions.
Public sector pensions only. I don't know that you could get away with that.
30% tax on public sector pensions.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Stephen Moore, we had economist
how do you like
Sean.
That, Amy? Why don't we do that?
That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But I just wanted to bring this to you because Sean Penn, the actor Sean Penn, you know him, right?
Oh, I love him. I just love him.
He came to Chicago to tour a testing site and talk about the economics of coronavirus. Are you ready?
Is he back from Venezuela?
Yeah, he's advising new dictators in Chicago.
None of us are excited to be having a pandemic.
No, that's not it. Hold
The
on.
motto that I go by, it's the same thing I think of just as a citizen with my own opinions so that I'll not register right at this moment. But again, when it comes to opening economies, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, and blood is slippery. And we don't want to get a finger slipping on a hot trigger.
So, look,
We don't want to get a finger slipping on a hot trigger. What do you think about that?
My reaction to that is very simple. people should make up their own minds. I have relatives who they're not coming out of their house for another 6 weeks, and that's their God-given right. Nobody has to, force anyone to go to. You can't force someone to go to work. You can't force someone to come out of their house or go into a store. Let individuals decide that. If Sean Penn doesn't want to go outside, that's probably a gift to the rest of the world. So stay inside. But why not? What I'm saying is let the people make their own individual decisions, not the politicians. Dan, what is wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that, Steve Moore. You've got it right. He is Stephen Moore, Wall Street Journal columnist, author of Trumponomics. Steve, keep the fight. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great week, guys. Take care.
Thanks. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is attorney Stephen Leahy. This isn't the first crisis we faced together. Back in 2008, business professionals in trouble sought help from bankruptcy attorneys, loan modification attorneys, foreclosure defense attorneys, and IRS attorneys trying to gain full financial recovery. They should have just called me. Let me tell you about Chuck. His small business crashed in the 2008 crisis. He faced 2 foreclosures, overbearing creditors, and the dreaded IRS. Chuck would not even get out of bed in the morning. His wife heard me on the radio and convinced him to hire me. We got Chuck a loan modification and a short sale. We obtained a discharge of his debt and settled what was left of his IRS liability. Now Chuck is back in business and in control of his life. You can hear Chuck tell his own story at Full Financial Recovery.